Well, I've seen a 15-year-old on an autopsy table, which is what they did in their
Well,
opening.
you know what? He got killed.
He did, and they did a murder trial, and my client was wrongfully convicted.
But we believe that the entire thing is relevant at 10:05.
Well, it might be relevant, but it might also be a waste of time.
Yikes.
Greer and Demekian, that's co-conspirator hearsay. Demekian and Stillwell, co-conspirator hearsay. The issue is what Cormavius said to Rel. Or excuse me, what Rel said to Quantavious.
Dude, she sucks.
Repeating it, and we don't have Rel here,
And we don't have
means
Rel.
it's hearsay.
Yes.
And so what's the exception? There isn't one. This cannot come in. Do you have one?
No, I just
Ride her. Day 142 of the Unplugged YSL RICO trial was interesting. State and defense argue on evidence of Lil Rod's Instagram and arrest body cam footage of Mr. Stillwell and Mr. Nichols. The judge also warns the DA's office to avoid any ex parte communication. Bonnie Willis replies to a random email from a person from Germany. The email was sent to a bunch of people, including the judge, but Bonnie's reply was to the judge, too. So this is technically ex parte communication. The judge hands it all over to the defense, and towards the end, you see Miss Hilton have complete word salad. Literally the worst argument I've ever heard from any DA ever. You'll see at the end of this video. Hit subscribe. Here we go. First look at Thug on day 142. Got the turtleneck all the way up. Apparently Judge Whitaker likes it very cold in there.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
I appreciate you forwarding to us the ex parte communications you received from Madam DA Bonnie Willis
Wait, what? Bonnie Willis communications ex parte, what?
and the history in this case of ex parte meetings or maybe communications. Would you just please request the state? I understand probably what was behind that communications. Of course, it is great for a boss to buck up an underling who has perhaps been attacked or maligned, but I don't believe that, and I don't think the court does either, that the court should have been copied on that communications, especially one that reads maybe more like a campaign ad with a source story in it. I just don't believe it was appropriate, and I would just ask you to please ask the state to halt any future communications ex parte they might want to have with this court. That's all I have to say. Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah, it's a shame that the court would even have to say something like that, but
Wait, what's happening, dude? The first 60 seconds. So apparently Bonnie Willis emailed Miss Love this, but also sent it to the judge? Please ignore this foolishness. As you know, the elected district attorney is extremely proud of you and believes you to be a huge asset to his office. In our community, you have no chance of losing your job and your service is greatly appreciated. Jesus. Who have never tried cases will always have nasty things to say. Okay. Come on now. This is delusion too. But while they criticize from the sidelines, they fear the arena. They are not risking life and limb to keep our community safe. Let me tell you an anecdote of encouragement this morning. A good friend of mine called this weekend and said she was in an Uber, and the Uber drive randomly, why is this the worst? Why is there spelling errors in this and you're a district attorney? Randomly began talking about being from Memphis and how much violence there was in Memphis. She said the Uber driver said in Memphis they do not have the ability to do RICO. He said, I am so proud of our DA here in Atlanta and her YSL team, and they're not afraid, they're fighting justice. I tell you this random anecdote to encourage you to brush your shoulders off and keep your eye on the prize, which will always be justice. Please know your boss gets 100 nasty messages and 100 nice messages a day. I focus on one thing every day, representing my community in the way that is fair. I'm asking of you to continue focus on justice and ignore the haters. Now go make an amazing day. Bonnie T. Willis. This is the most strange. Why does it seem like it's someone that's like not smart typing it?
can you all please communicate to everybody in the DA's office to not have any sort of ex parte communications with the court? And y'all may not even know what I'm talking about because I don't think either of you was copied on that email, but Miss Love was. Miss Hilton, you were as well?
I do, Your Honor, and I don't know, I know exactly what you're talking about. I think we have a different perception of direct communication with the court, but we
But the
make
court
sure
was
that
copied on it. And it could have been an accident, but
And Your Honor,
it should have been careful.
But the state did not have the initial conversation with the court. That was
No, I
a
know
community member, and it was very much also was not a direct communication with the court, but we understand the court's we understand what the court is saying.
Oh, excuse me. I just need to take issue with the fact that it wasn't a direct communication from the court. I'm sorry. Excuse me. Can you hear me now? I didn't mean to act like Max Sharp. I take issue with any type of suggestion that this was not a direct communication with the court. It went from Madam DA Bonnie Willis to this court. It was a direct communication to this court. It was inappropriate. It was praising Georgia's RICO statutes to the court, which again was not appropriate, Your Honor.
Frankly, I think it might be a good idea to print out the email and make it a court's exhibit to this record. But I think what Ms. Hilton was just saying was that the original communication was not from the district attorney's office. The original communication was, I don't know who this person is or where in the world they are, but some member of the world, member of the public, emailing Ms. Love directly, but copying several other people, the court included, because of course our email addresses are a matter of public record.
So this was a reply to a random email from a random person that copied everyone together, and Bonnie decided to reply to it. Bonnie is looking through her email. How insane is that? She probably wants to commit suicide. There's probably terrible shit in her email.
Ignored it and deleted it, but as you all know, because I forwarded the the next communication to everybody, elected DA Ms. Willis made a decision to respond and directed that response to Ms. Love, but kept everybody, including the person who had made the original email communication, and the court on her response to Ms. Love. And I believe that to be ex parte, and that is the reason why as soon as I read it, I had Ms. Persifield forward it to all counsel, because I don't think that should be going on.
I certainly appreciated that, Your Honor.
And the court really has ignored entirely the substance of the communication, because the court is not making any decisions based on whether I think the RICO statute is good or bad. That's not what judges do. The legislature enacts statutes. I apply them hopefully correctly.
And I have no
or
concern.
whether anybody thinks any attorney is doing a good or a bad job. I'm just sitting here trying to follow the law.
Yeah, and I'm not concerned about any impact on the court from that communication.
Yeah.
It's just the
Shouldn't be
communication
happening.
itself. Thank
Yeah.
you.
The in-life photograph is relevant because you have to show that the person was alive. This is a conspiracy, RICO. So the overt acts don't, and that's going to be another issue that we argue before you on record it, whenever you call it. But those overt acts don't have to be proven. It just has to be contemplated that that's what the conspiracy is about, and that overt act has been commenced in some way. It could be a lawful act. The state is putting in, or wants to put in through a parent, the loss of a child. That's just unbearable. Whether they're going to cry or show their emotions or not, I'm not so sure that it has much relevance. I don't believe anybody is going to argue that the person wasn't a human being.
We still have to show or prove the overt act for the jury to believe that it is a part of the conspiracy. And with that, Your Honor.
So, by the way, obviously, I'm going to remind you guys, Lil Rod is convicted of murder already. The defense feels like he's in the courtroom just to make the other defendants look bad because he's already convicted and they put it as an overt act. It's almost like they're double dipping on one murder that's already done, but it's on appeal, but still.
The underlying murder, which was the overt act in this case. I think her words were similar to, he's here, he's been convicted, but that's because he didn't have a good defense, something to that effect. And that was stated in opening. So the state, we believe, still have to prove the underlying overt act, which is the homicide, how he died, where his injuries were, and we will conclude our testimony at that point.
What is the defense willing to stipulate to?
That his cause of death was a bullet to the brain, to the head. That's about it. And then the two victims that were also in the car, they could testify that they saw him in the car. They saw him, I guess, go over.
Jesus. Miss D. Williams saying cause of death was just a bullet to the brain. That it. Not my defendant.
That's about it. I mean, I don't understand why they need the autopsy photos. So that's why I have the 401, 402, and 403 objection. They're only doing this to inflame the jury. There's no reason to bring in the autopsy photos.
Okay, well, they hardly picked photos that would inflame anybody.
Well, I've seen a 15-year-old on an autopsy table, which is what they did in their
Well,
opening,
you know
would
what?
inflame
He
the
got
jury.
killed.
He did, and they did a murder trial, and my client was wrongfully convicted.
Well, if you're making that argument, then they are entitled to prove it. So you will not stipulate to the medical examiner's expertise?
She was already admitted as an expert, so yes.
All right, I'm going to permit them.
So Judge letting in the autopsy pictures. So something happened with Sprinkle last week where I noticed it. I edit out so much shit that I say and I need to stop doing that, but he was typing on his laptop while up on the stand. Why is he doing that?
There was a laptop on the witness stand, and you accessed it.
Yes.
And you actually did that without anybody asking you to, or asking the court's permission. Can you tell me what all you looked at on the laptop?
Yeah, I had my supplement, that 140-page document, and I also had some of the stuff that I pulled during the case. Everything that's already been turned over in discovery, just in case I need to refresh my recollection. But primarily, it was just it was a digital version of the report that I had on the stand. That was it. So I could do word searches. So if I was asked a question, I wouldn't have to be flipping through pages and looking for things.
Okay. Was there any point in time when you accessed anything else other than that report and the files that were connected to that?
No.
Okay. Did you in any way read any communication that came in at any time from anybody?
No, I wasn't communicating with anybody. I didn't have email open or anything like that. All I was looking at was the report and the digital media, like the discs that I brought to the stand with me, that stuff that was on the discs and the stuff that was turned over in discovery. That was it.
All right. We may call you back at some point.
So we're just going to believe Mr. Sprinkle, all right? Because he's under oath. Because he's totally telling the truth, right?
Slime Life Shorty Instagram handle is Wooney Lee, who is he will be a witness in this trial, was originally a defendant. And this post is between Mr. Ryan and Mr. Lee. And he posts that he loves Mr. Ryan, he's realer than me, and then at the bottom it says full throttle about you. The association between both of them, the state hasn't thus far in this trial with the jury, to my knowledge, introduced any evidence about Mr. Ryan and Mr. Wooney Lee's relationship. So this is the first photo we've addressed with the court explaining that, and the date it's posted is February 25th, 2019. The murder in this case is February 23rd, 2019. So the state feels it's relevant, and there's no other evidence introduced yet about this specific topic, so it's not cumulative at this moment.
Overruled.
So she's going to let in a lot of this shit. Not surprising here. Slime Life Shorty took a plea back in December 2022, and he has to testify now. And now he's going to be scared to do what Munk Tunk did and get sent back to prison.
This is also a post with, this is Wooney Lee, who's a co-defendant. And so at this point, this will be the second post, so this will be cumulative.
Okay. What's the response?
Your Honor, this is a little bit different because in this post it says slime is all we know. We can't go out bad, loyalty over love. love. So it's again, it's showing, it's for one using, he's referring to it as slime is all we know, and he's expressing loyalty amongst two fellow gang members, Your Honor, publicly.
Okay, so the cumulative objection is overruled.
Judge is going through all this quick, just letting everything in.
Judge, we're just asking the ones who've not been identified or won't be identified be redacted out from this image.
All right.
So, Your Honor, because this post is titled Love All Mine and has a snake emoji, the state, and it's a statement of party opponent, the state feels that all of these, and some of these Instagram, in what we will get to in a little bit, interact with some of these handles. And so the state feels that it's relevant that in this public post, he says love all my, the state interpreted as slimes, he puts the snake. And so the state feels that none of these should be redacted.
60% of you aren't subscribed. Come on, hit the subscribe bell.
Okay, that's fine. Then I will overrule the request for redaction.
I feel this is highly prejudicial without any sort of connection to this actual case.
6 firearms, and the one on the far right has an extended magazine. So the state, we have whittled down pictures and reference.
Where does it come from? Like, what's this a picture from?
It's his Instagram, Your Honor.
Oh, right, okay.
And so, yes, Your Honor. So because at this point in time, we've tried, there's a number of pictures of firearms in pictures and videos. And so thus far, we've discussed one today. So the state feels that this is, it's relevant to show access to firearms. It's his own Instagram. This is a photo he has. So the state feels at this point in time, it's not cumulative or irrelevant that there's 6 firearms. One at least visibly has an extended magazine in this photograph.
Okay, well, given that he's choosing to post this on his Instagram, I'm going to overrule the relevance objection.
She's banging through all these Instagram posts.
Mr. Ryan is talking about give me $250 for my Glock, and the party he's interacting with says I got a Taurus, I'm going to sell it for $2. So it's simply to show the ease with firearms involving a case with a number of violent acts and his access to firearms. That's why the state wanted to include this.
As to the relevance of him wanting to sell a firearm, if that's what this is reflecting?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yeah, I'm going to grant the relevance objection.
Shoots that one down, surprisingly.
Pages in here which it's just Mr. Ryan saying slat. And I guess our question is exactly how many of these do we need? Because we've got some images, we've got multiple conversations. How many times do we need to just see the same one word or same one phrase to establish that these are phrases or words that Mr. Ryan uses?
So that one's the first time we're seeing it. So that one can come in, and then I don't know whether there are going to be more or not. But
conflict allegedly that Mr. Ryan had where he robbed somebody. We feel that's entirely too prejudicial to come in. And the conversation about it continues with Free Juju being the speaker.
And Mr. Ryan says, were y'all striking on Cleveland? Striking typically can be going in to break into cars and steal items. And he's like, no, we weren't breaking into cars. We were walking to school smoking, and we saw a gun on the seat. And then further on, what Mr. Ryan responds to that in terms of the person letting someone draw a gun on him and not resort to violence back is, y'all are reckless. Why did y'all let Bully draw down on him? Now y'all can't get bust down. I'm going to draw on him on slime. So it's the state kind of wants these 3 pages for that last line where he says, I'm going to draw down on him on slime, on the gang.
On the gang, on slime.
redact. You robbed?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
I'm sorry, Judge. There's a photo earlier on which we did not object to with this same person, so the connection between them has already been shown earlier via photo.
Your Honor, but the conversation continues because this is one of the conversations in which you actually need to look at his conversation with Mr. McMiller. That coupled with him talking to Mr. McMiller about going to Crucial and who he's with, he's acknowledging that he is with gang to her. So these two conversations actually coincide.
Okay, saying you're with the gang does not mean it's actually a gang. Let's be honest. I've said that for years. I'm with the gang as a joke with my boys, but I know that's like my generation of people. Like older generation has never done that, but our generation calls our friend group a gang all the time when it's not a gang. I see what they're trying to do here, whatever.
So he's setting up going to Crucial with Mr. McMiller, and then he's telling the other person, when she asks who you're going with, gang.
Okay.
Relevant portion where Scarface is Demikion Garlington, and when that Instagram handle, it says slat this SB what's up, the state believes that that SB is the nickname for Mr. Stillwell. And so that specific bottom portion of 1110 is a separate reason in this thread, and then they have a video call with one another. And so there's two things going on, and part of what's behind this is, like, for example, Mr. Sledge, who's testified before this court. He's on the stand saying anyone can be slime. The judge, the state, whoever. And so this is a private conversation where it's clearly a problem that someone is publicly saying that they're slime, because Mr. Ryan is saying, like, he says he's slime, how? And the person who's telling Mr. Ryan about this says, I just want you to scare him, which the follow on that is like, don't do something more. That's why the state feels it's important, is there's a differentiation. People that are slime, there's people who aren't. And it's a problem if you're saying you are and you are not.
But there's no response from Mr. Ryan saying, yes, I'll do it, or I don't know what you're talking. There's no response. This is someone else saying these things about whether he's going to scare him or do something like that.
There's a message where Mr. Ryan says, like, what do you want me to do, kill him? Like,
I have a concern with this matter. The initials SB show up.
Yeah.
I'm being told anyways by the state that SB conversation, whoever's involved, is a separate thread, is what I heard from the discussion
I hadn't
about.
gotten clarity on that, so let's, I'm as untech savvy as you. So is the person who's saying this SB what up able to see this other conversation?
No, Your Honor. With Instagram, there's a text thread ID, so they give a specific number.
Yeah.
So I'm texting Joe Smith, and then a second later, someone else texts me, and me and Mr. Smith keep texting back and forth.
Yeah.
Each thread, you have to search the number. So
Okay.
there will be, this is a completely separate, it's almost like getting a whole other text message.
Is that why some things are in yellow and some things are in green highlighting?
Yes, Your Honor.
Show that this is
When we're publishing to the jury, is this going to be like printed out as 2 different exhibits with 2 different text chains, or is the state's plan to just publish this document and then this jury kind of is supposed to figure it out? I'm trying to understand where we're going.
No, Your Honor, we would have the witness distinguish that with Instagram, there are different text conversations. So this is a separate conversation. We can ask that very
all right.
specifically.
Y'all need to just make that very clear that because I'm sure. Well, I'm not sure, but there might be jurors who are as untext savvy or unsocial media savvy as Mr. Chart and I. And
Mr. Stillwell takes Garlington's phone, goes on his Instagram account, direct messages Mr. Ryan and says, hey, because I'm Instagramming you from Garlington's account, this SB, hit me up or whatever. I think he said hit my line in a few minutes. And so I think that is probably what occurred.
And then, okay, so Shannon is on Demikion's Twitter and says
Instagram, right?
Instagram, yes, I'm sorry, thank you. And says something to Ryan, and then afterwards there's some video call of an unknown duration.
Correct.
Is that okay?
Correct.
I'm going to object. I understand that it's being separated from
Correct.
other discussions, but that in of itself, I'm going to object for relevance grounds. I don't think there's an issue at this point whether Mr. Ryan and Mr. Stillwell know each other, or Mr. Stillwell and Mr. Garlington know each other. So, I mean, there's no content to any of this. It's just some sort of connection.
You're right. I don't believe, and I'll double check. I don't believe we have any evidence of
Mr. Ryan and
Mr. Stillwell.
since I've been here, I don't think we've had that evidence.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say that picture that the state's referring to is definitely not Mr. Stillwell.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Wait, what? It's not Shannon? They're lying or they're dumb?
Another conversation with Free Juju. This is the one where they say something about killing someone, and we do feel that that is overly prejudicial to be coming in.
So, Your Honor, this is the conversation I mixed up with the first one where Free Juju says, these are the type of people you let be slime. And in Instagram, you can send photos, and so in this thread, it appears that he sends a photo of someone, like referencing. And then he responds, he says, well, he's not official, but he says he'd be in 250. And I think when he's 250, Cleveland is a location. And then Mr. Ryan basically said that's not true. It's a slang term cap, as in that's just not accurate. And then
That's not true. Slang term cat.
So I understand the objection, but prohibitivity is not substantially outweighed by any undue prejudice.
information about sex, money, murder, and other members. And when he's saying, is someone still rocking right? Like basically, is he still in good graces? Is he still, and they're confirming and validating with one another. Those kind of conversations happen frequently in a street gang and are necessary to know who's in the gang, who's not, and to, so this specific thread is specifically about the sex, money, murder conversation.
And that would be very good evidence against Mr. Blaylock, who's not here.
It's relevant for the jury to understand that this co-defendant who's just severed, he would be in this trial, has the same gang affiliation and both YSL and sex, money, murder as Mr. Ryan.
There are a lot of relevant things. They're not necessarily admissible.
So the thing that is causing me some pause with this is that it's just this one conversation, right? And you're saying it should come in under the co-conspirator exception. Doesn't there need to be something outside of the conversation that establishes this other person's participation?
So, Your Honor, it's whichever individual statement is being utilized as an exception to the co-conspirator hearsay. For example, anything that Blaylock states are necessary for context to Blaylock responding back. So have either a non-hearsay purpose or kind of necessary to complete Blaylock's response. Because if you just introduce Blaylock saying, yes, he's still Rolack, he G, you don't know what he's responding to.
I mean, this is a gang trial, but this is just so tedious. Putting in certain conversations of them admitting they're in a gang. Because remember, being in a gang isn't illegal. They have to prove the crimes.
Speculative probative value, trying to piece together what this is saying on both sides, we would ask it be included under 403.
Frankly, I'm trying to piece together all the different abbreviations.
Right.
Which I guess young people know, but I'm not young. It might be better to just exclude this.
Shoots that one down.
Okay.
He says, why the hell you didn't say you were slime when we were locked up? He's talking to someone else he was locked up with. And then the person responds, I didn't know you were slime. I just thought you were blood. Slap. And then Blaylock responds, I'm an OG in that slime shit.
Bro, these conversations, man.
I didn't want anyone coming up to me talking about I'm not real slime and shit. And then Blaylock responds, oh, you're going to be real slime. On slime, you will be. And then the person says, all right, say no more, SNN, saying, say no more. I am on Cleveland. Where are you at? I'm on Cleveland right now. And Blaylock says, I'm on Cleveland. So this is in furtherance of the YSL criminal street gang because Blaylock is put this person in the gang. And he says, and the guy's like wants to make sure he's officially a member of YSL. And Blaylock assures him, you're going to be real on slime. And then they talk about meeting up to complete this conversation in person or do what they need to do to get this guy in the gang.
Okay. And so once again, how is what the other person is saying?
So they want Blaylock statements in, but also the person he's conversating with. That's insane to me. Like, I get Blaylock and the co-conspirator bullshit, but
it completes the context of this threat.
That's nice. It completes the context, but is it allowed in a criminal trial?
A few weeks after Mr. Rayshon Bennett was stabbed in the Fulton County Jail, and we believe that, or the state's theory is that Mr. Ford and Mr. McMillan were killed as a retaliation of that stabbing, and so this shows the association with that individual.
Overruled.
My understanding is the state is saying Mr. Ford's an important part of this story because he is murdered in 2022. I understand this is a RICO case. For the purposes of the importance of Mr. Ford and Mr. Ryan being linked, Mr. Ryan is in prison at the time of Mr. Ford's death, as well as the death that the state is claiming was payback for Mr. Ford's death.
Okay.
So Mr. Ryan, and the reason I say that is because while I understand the state has established connections of Mr. Ford to other people, and I understand their argument for the relevance of that, I don't think that this case requires a link between Mr. Ford and Mr. Ryan as much, and a spillover prejudice on all of us when the way of showing the link between Mr. Ford and Mr. Ryan, which I say has very limited probative value, but the video itself that shows that link involves Mr. Ryan waving a handgun around. So that's my concern.
So yours is a 403 objection.
The fact that Mr. Ryan is publicly, these are public posts, toting his gun, and he's with another YSL associate, Your Honor, we believe that the probative value is not substantially outweighed by its unfair prejudice.
All right, I'm going to overrule the 403 objection.
I had a feeling she was letting that in.
You can't see anybody that's in the vehicle. It's just a gun and a camera, and the caption on the video is a snake emoji and a star emoji. So that would be relevance, cumulative.
Mr. Ryan is wearing a YSL chain. This is a public video where it has that snake, and that if the court can see, that is a probably 50-round drum in the magazine on the bottom of that gun. So it's a public display of both YSL and a fire, and Mr. Ryan used the firearm. So the state's purpose of this video is to show that public display, which is important to, one, create fear or for the game.
Got it, overruled.
They already have photos of him with guns.
Not with a gun with that kind of a attachment while wearing a YSL chain.
Oh no. I swear, Lil Rod is literally in the courtroom to make the other defense look bad because he actually is convicted of murdering someone. No one else is. He's guilty already. Like, think about that. He is already guilty.
Said you want to think about, I believe it's Mr. Blaylock's statement to someone else about joining the gang. And I'm sitting here and I don't know how that comes in. Mr. Blaylock's not a party opponent, and I'd like you to look at a case if you're going to do that. The conspiracy must include the declarant and the defendant whom the statement is being offered against. And the court said that the trial court in that case gave a proper instruction limiting that statement only to the person who was on trial. There's co-defendants. Only to the person making the statement.
Was it a RICO case?
It's a gang case. It's not. No, I don't. It's not a RICO
Okay,
case.
I think that might make a difference.
I don't see why that makes it a difference if we're under 24-8-803 D2, 804 D2E. That's what the state is traveling.
Okay, I'll take a look at it.
Okay.
Brian Steele always fighting, citing cases. Has a good point there, I think. But it's not RICO, it's a gang charge, apparently.
No sound, we're gang. Around. Let's go out there. They thought like a stop sign. There's a whole lot of gunfire.
Hey man, these boys self-snitching sometimes. Like, why are you committing crimes but also posting videos of you with a weapon singing to a song? Like, it's definition of self-snitching.
I would sustain a cumulative objection. Okay.
And Your Honor,
Go ahead.
the state was using this for the gang hand signs. Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, so y'all already got that.
Understood, Your Honor.
Pick between the two, but
Mr. Harvey had indicated that he had some objections.
I thought Mr. Harvey was supposed to be here today, so.
So and I'm not trying to draw the ire of the court or Mr. Harvey. I'm just saying that I'm prepared to discuss the matters, but I am not speaking on behalf of Mr. Harvey.
Who is representing Mr. Nichols' interests today?
I am, Your Honor, Lamar Gardner.
Gardner?
Gardner.
With a G?
Yes.
Okay.
Mr. Harvey is actually in federal court this morning at a funeral this afternoon.
What? Federal court this morning and a funeral this afternoon? Is that what you said?
Yes, Your Honor.
Well, he didn't ask to be excused, which is fine as long as there's somebody here, but are you ready to proceed on these body cams?
I'm not, Your Honor.
Well, I mean, y'all may just not get the chance to do it then.
So what's happening here is Marquavius Nichols on the left and Shannon Stillwell arrested for the murder of Shamel Drinks. Harvey isn't there to argue body cam of the arrest.
Yeah, he's pulling out to Cleveland Avenue exit. He's making a right turn westbound on Cleveland Avenue.
Okay, the unit's got the westbound on Cleveland.
And again, so everybody knows, it's a white four-door Audi.
So Shannon and Nichols just got out of the car. They're obviously being chased by the police. And when they pull up to this house, whatever the house they're at, apparently in the backyard, they run to the backyard, a goat sacrifice is happening. And I think apparently it's a religious thing. I don't know much about that, but so the body cam probably shows that.
Driver is a You got two running. Driver has a maroon colored beanie on, black jacket, blue jeans. They're both running northbound behind 2481.
Hey, what's your name? Wait, Marvius. Wait, Marvius, what's your last name? Wait, Marvius Nicholas? Wait, Marvius Nicholas?
I didn't see any goat sacrifice in there, but I'm pretty sure that's what happened in this situation. Okay, so I just found this body cam. I didn't know they were going to show some of it. God damn it. I went through all the effort of finding it.
The person in the helicopter says they or Shannon is armed, consider them armed and dangerous or armed.
Yeah, I heard that too.
And we don't think that is appropriate. Threw a bag into a bush.
Okay.
And
I thought I saw that. I'm going to zoom in on that on editing. I didn't say anything.
Commentary from the helicopter pilot about a bag in the bush. Now, if I understand if the helicopter pilot saw it and he testifies that I saw someone wearing whatever throw a bag in the bush, then that's fine. But I don't think we need the commentary on the out-of-court commentary on top of the video. And that's at the very end.
So what part of this do you want to show?
Yeah, this is an entire chase. So it starts.
So who's chasing who?
So the police. So this video. So the order in the court is on March 17, 2022. This is 3 days after the Drinks homicide.
Okay.
Low speed, high speed chase. When the helicopters start going, Mr. Stillwell gets out of the parking lot. He does not get his food, and and they go on a chase. He goes the wrong way up streets, and he eventually gets to a home where he runs into a yard. He throws his phone away. We're able to subsequently apprehend that phone. They throw this bag of away. That's seen from the helicopter. They throw a book bag away. That's seen from the helicopter. That book bag is subsequently recovered. It has inside of the book bag, and so this is evidence of that interaction.
Okay, so the Audi is at the Chick-fil-A,
Yes.
and then a law enforcement officer is at the Chick-fil-A?
An undercover law enforcement officer.
Okay, and then does that car start following the Audi, or just the helicopter?
The helicopter and other cars. We have a trooper that follows. When
does it start? And when do we start seeing the part before it gets to the Chick-fil-A? Do we need that?
We can start it at the Chick-fil-A because that is the relevant.
And how long does that go on?
The 13 minutes. That is the entire.
Do we need 13 minutes of that, or can it just be at minute 1 they start following, and then here's when something actually happens?
Your Honor, let me reevaluate that. I think that the entirety is important. Of what happens in this entire interaction, we will look at it and get back to court, but we believe that the entire thing is relevant at 10:05.
Well, it might be relevant, but it might also be a waste of time.
Yikes.
Kind of just following each other down the road.
Mr. Stillwell goes in the opposite of traffic. There's a number of different things.
Well, then pick out those parts and show those and condense it. Okay?
Yes.
Okay, so get back to us with a much condensed version of this.
So, in Your Honor, I agree with the court that a lot of this seems to be unnecessary to the extent that you're saying.
Do you want all 13 minutes in?
I don't. Okay. But the reason I'm not jumping up and down about it is there's nothing egregious that my client
That's fine, but
does.
we've got to find some places to cut some time. And if there's nothing being shown other than the cars driving down the highway, I get if they're taking evasive action, fine, show that. But the stuff that's just, we're driving, we can just skip that and get to the points that are more relevant.
Doesn't want the pilot saying too much here. Being real careful about the audio.
Even from this distance, I know it seems interesting, but he was able to see the specific times in which Mr. Drink's vehicle, the Audi, and the other vehicle leave the gas station initially from the distance. This is something that may or may not come in, but that's what the purpose of those 5 minutes are. Okay. And then from here, what the testimony will be is...
So they got the Audi on video following Shamel Drinks, apparently.
And because of this video, that is why he went down to the BP to actually get the actual surveillance video from BP gas station. So
the purpose of this video is to say that the detective saw this and it led him to want to go get more video?
Detective, off of that video, and Ms. Hilton, I'm not coming at you, I'm trying to understand, is able to look in the upper corner and see the cars leaving?
I mean, you can see cars coming and going. I don't doubt that. But I mean, if the only purpose of it is...
But he's able to, and you can call him and question because we talked about it as to how and why he's able to do that. But he is able to, yes.
Okay, well, I mean, just ask him those 2 questions, and if you even need to. Why do we need to get to what it is that he ultimately saw on a better...
We are ultimately talking about the investigation because one of the defenses that some of the investigation has not been the best. So this is just all the steps that APD took in the initial part of this homicide in order to solve it.
I don't think that we need to be worried about that. So let's...
Well, the state has the burden, so we have to worry about those things, Your Honor.
Well, then I am going to rule that it is a waste of time under 403. And then if the defense wants to question, well, how did you know to go to the BP video and get that? Then you can play it. But otherwise, no.
Oh man, the judge got some attitude lately. I get the defense's objection that this is a lot of chasing. It's 25 minutes.
Did y'all get the gun? It was in the street.
So one of the cops saw them throw a gun out and went back for it.
We believe on radio someone said they tossed the gun.
Okay,
However,
y'all don't have that evidence, and he can no longer recall.
remember that. So what happens is by the time he gets around Trooper Campbell, he sees the gun in the middle of the road. He picks it up. He gives it to APD. That gun is eventually ran. It comes back to the girlfriend of Mr. Stillwell, Miss Alexander. And then that gun, there's a knife and hit to shell casings that are found on March 16, 2022 that we confirm.
Knife and hit to the shell casings of a previous shooting.
And there's an attorney here for Mr. Nichols who says he's not prepared to argue it, but I'm prepared to decide it. So if somebody wants to argue in Mr. Harvey's place, have at it.
On the wiretap, it seems clear, at least to me, Mr. Garlington's wiretap speaking with Mr. Stillwell, and they're talking about what other people say, and then the issue that we want your honorable court to wrestle with is there seems to be a break because some of the information comes from a man named Rel, who nobody is alleging is part of this conspiracy.
Right, and what Garlington is repeating, he only knows because Rel told him, right?
That's my understanding. So dealing with that.
It's still nested hearsay, and so there would still have to be a hearsay exception for the nested part of the hearsay to come in.
That's my understanding.
Yeah.
And that's under 24-8-805 in the Georgia Code, and I would like to give you a couple cases if I could. And
Well, if it's just for that proposition, I already think that proposition is the law, so you don't need to.
my issue before the court, and I think it breaks the chain, therefore, because it is just hearsay without an exception.
We believe Mr. Nichols may or may not have said to Rel because that is the chain that I believe the defense is saying is not broken, or is unbroken, because we have Demekion to Mr. Stillwell saying that Quantavious, so those are two co-conspirators, so Quantavious, co-conspirator, told Demekion.
Okay, hang on. Nichols is back up and just say that again. Sorry.
That's how confusing this is.
Demekion speaking to Mr. Stillwell, and Mr. Demekion is now conveying what Quantavious told him, right?
Quantavious
Greer, who is a co-conspirator. That statement that Quantavious Greer says is, I spoke to Rel.
Right.
And Rel told me that, or Quay needs to chill because Quay is saying that he needs to pay for our lawyer because we did this stuff for him. That's what Rel is telling Quantavious. Excuse me. That is what Rel is telling Mr. Greer, and Mr. Greer is now relaying that to Mr. Garlington, who is now telling Mr. Stillwell.
Holy shit. How is this coming into court? It's on a wiretap, but Jesus Christ.
So which Quay is this?
The Quay who made the statement to Rel allegedly is Quarmavius Nichols.
Okay, that's what I thought. Whose name you didn't even mention in here.
Because I'm just trying to get the link together first. So what we have is Quarmavius Nichols speaks to Rel. That's what we believe. If we believe what Quantavious Greer is saying, Quarmavius Nichols talks to Rel.
And says, tell Betty, dang, get a lawyer.
Because we did this for him.
Yeah.
And that is now being communicated from Rel to Quantavious Greer to Mr. Demekion to Mr. Stillwell.
Just a complete shit show.
Greer and Demekion, that's co-conspirator hearsay. Between Demekion and Stillwell, co-conspirator hearsay. The issue is what Quarmavious said to Rel. Or excuse me, what Rel said to Quantavious.
Dude, she sucks. Miss Hilton is terrible. She's not qualified either. She keeps fucking up the name. She's done it 3 times. I'm so confused.
Should pay for our lawyer because we did this stuff for him. It's a demand. It is not, based upon this case, it's not hearsay, because that's what this case says. It's a demand. He's telling...
But that's Nichols who's allegedly saying that.
Who's a co-conspirator.
Right. And if it were Nichols to another co-conspirator, there wouldn't be an issue. It's that he said it allegedly to somebody named Rel, who then repeated it to co-conspirators.
But what they're saying is the command itself is not hearsay. So
I don't have an issue with what Nichols said, because it would come in, if it were to come in, already as against his penal interest, potentially. But just assuming that that's not even hearsay, you still need to get to the part where Rel is repeating something. And how are we supposed to accept Rel's hearsay statement?
We shouldn't have to accept any of this telephone game hearsay.
That Nichols said X, Y, and Z.
Because Quarmavious is saying, Quarmavious is giving so Quarmavious is communicating... Not Quarmavious, Quantavious.
She did it again. Does she need to write this down?
Yes, Greer. Greer is stating what Rel told him that Quarmavious said.
Right.
So if what Quarmavious said isn't hearsay.
What Rel said is hearsay. Okay? So what's the exception for that?
There isn't one. It breaks the chain, like Steele was saying.
Rel communicated what Quarmavious said. So the only thing Rel said is what Quarmavious said. And I guess maybe that's
true. But given that we don't have Rel, it's hearsay. Whatever he says, even if when Nichols allegedly said it, it's not hearsay, or it comes in under hearsay exception. The fact that Rel is repeating it, and we don't have Rel here,
and we don't have
means it's hearsay, right? Right.
Yes.
And so what's the exception? There isn't one. this cannot come in. And do you have one?
No, Your Honor, at this time we don't.
All right.
Fried her. Oh, dude, sit down, Miss Hilton. That was terrible. Well, that ended with a bang. That's pretty much it for day 142. Join channel membership, hit subscribe. Love you guys. Peace out.